I received a telephone call from the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, and it was along the lines of, is that Phil Bigley? Yes. Are you the brother of Ken Bigley? Now that morning on the television, I'd seen a television report that 3 people had been kidnapped in Baghdad. And in an instant it all fitted together. And so then there's the pause where then the gentleman introduced himself and said to me that Ken had been taken hostage in Baghdad with 2 other Americans. It's disbelief, really, to begin with, but also because I'd heard the television report that morning, it was reality as well. And it was on the Saturday, possibly Sunday morning, that Ken's name got out into the press. And then the world media descended on my mother's small terrace house. In a way, we became prisoners in our house in Liverpool for the following 3 to 4 weeks. Anytime anyone came in and out, you could hear all the cameras clicking, so I can recall vividly. I'd go to the front door and hide behind the front door, let somebody in and close the front door, because we just didn't want all of this. We didn't want the media coverage. We didn't expect it, and we certainly didn't want it. But of course, the only way we could communicate with the kidnappers was to use the media. So it was a very difficult time. One minute you feel as if you're doing something, right? We're actually doing something here, and then when you start to think about what you're going to say, it's just very, very emotional. We decided that Mum would do a broadcast, and we did that in Liverpool. We wanted to have Mum centre on the camera, so she was the one making the plea to not to kill her son. Prior to going down, we actually received a call from the Prime Minister, from Tony Blair at the time, because he knew what was going on. And it was some words of support really from my mum before she went into the room to do that. And then she broadcast the appeal. And we got back to our house about 1 o'clock in the morning. We hadn't eaten all day, and somebody had been out that evening and bought a load of fish and chips for all the relatives that sort of descended on the house. And so there were cold fish and chips, and we sat there in the kitchen, our little kitchen in Liverpool, and we tucked into these cold fish and chips and had a beer. And I think it's a way of sort of releasing your exhaustion. We just looked at each other and it just seemed so surreal and stupid, and we were all enjoying this cold food and we were all laughing, and then you feel guilty. And I remember saying, if people could see us now, they'd wonder, what the hell are we doing? But it's a way, that's that release in emotional energy, and it's a memory that will stay with me because it was just so unusual, it was so surreal. You do get through these ordeals, but you are going through an emotional roller coaster of highs and lows, and that was one of the particular days we had that. One of the things you have to cope with in the event that things don't turn out the way you hope they would, which was the case with Ken, is that then you're grieving in the public eye. And that's very difficult to do. When our family liaison officer suggested that we prepare a statement in the event that Ken would be murdered, my initial reaction was, extremely negative towards that. But they sensibly sat us down and said, well, look, if we prepare just a statement, at least they'll go away. If you don't, they'll keep hounding you and hounding you and hounding you until they get something. And so then we all agreed that, okay, that was the thing to do. But looking back, it was the correct thing to do. And then you have a choice. Well, we had a choice whether to deliver that statement personally or to have somebody from the police deliver the statement on our behalf, or somebody from the Foreign Office on our behalf. And we thought, no, we'd want to do that ourselves. And that was very important, even though you're doing it in front of the nation. it still was very important because he was our brother. He was Mum's son. We didn't want anybody else doing that on our behalf. And out of respect for the family, for Ken, for me, it was important that we delivered that news. And again, you can imagine it was heartbreaking. It was very, very difficult to do. But having prepared the statement days before, that helped tremendously, and that made that 10-minute period in life a little bit easier. Afterwards, I suddenly found with my friends, close friends obviously were very much involved in communication and immediate care as well towards me, my mother, the rest of the family. But within the wider group of friends, what I did notice is that some people don't know what to say. And so they start to avoid you. And if they bump into you, you can see them freeze. It's like, what do I say? I would say to people finding themselves in that situation is just try and be normal, and don't be afraid to just try and act normally. And what I found myself doing, I started to go and visit my friends that hadn't been in contact, but I think because they didn't want to intrude in any way. And so I'd visit them, and I can recall one particular friend, and I knocked at his front door, and he opened the front door, and I could see his chin drop to the floor, and I said, "Is the kettle on?" And that just broke it. You broke the ice, and we went in, had a nice cup of tea, and I was able to say, just catch up and say, look, we're okay. And you do feel anger, and I think that's quite normal to feel anger, and don't be worried about that if you do. You will be anxious, you will be worried about the not knowing, and it's all normal. But also for me, I think it was the impotence of not being able to do anything. I can't do anything because I don't know where they are. We don't know where they're being held. The authorities don't know. We don't know what condition they're in. And so your mind races off, and you start to think about all the things that could possibly, and normally the worst case scenario, what could possibly be happening. And I think you have to try and clear your mind of those things. And it's easy to say, try and remain positive, but the more you can, try and remain focused and positive on the job at hand, and try to keep the emotional aspect out of it. Otherwise, you can't make decisions. You can't make decisions on what to do. You need to try and you need to divorce yourself from the emotion. It's not easy to do. It's certainly not very easy to do. People in this situation will experience a full range of emotions. And what I would say is that's quite normal. Don't be angry with yourself as well. And don't feel guilty about how you're responding. We all respond in a different way. Different family members. It's how your individual coping mechanism works. I suppose if I look back, the huge mistake that we made is that we never asked or sought counselling afterwards, and I didn't for my mother either. And I just assumed, we didn't need it. You think you're fine. After the memorial service in November, I went back to work, and yeah, I'm fine. And it's only now looking back you realise you're not, and certainly for 2 years I wasn't fine. And I think that hit me when we were on holiday with the family. We had a summer holiday, and my daughter came to me and said, "Come on, Dad, let's get in the swimming pool." And I said, "No, it's all right, Hannah. You go ahead, and I'm fine here." And she turned to me and said, "Dad, ever since Uncle Ken, you just don't know how to have fun anymore." And it hit me like a brick. And she was right. She was dead right. I'd forgotten how to have fun, and that had drained away from my life, because you feel guilty a little bit. I'm not allowed to laugh, or if anyone sees me, what will they think? Will they think badly of me? You've got to come to terms with that, and you've got to get over it, and you've got to realise you need to get back to living the life that you had. It's in a completely different direction, but I think if you learn to accept the change and accept that, okay, let's see where this direction takes me. It took years, but hopefully I came out of it a stronger person. It certainly made me do things that I would never have done before, and in particular charity work. So working for Hostage UK and one or two other charities. And that's been a great release for me as well. It made me realise how important love is. And I don't mean, there are different types of love, but I just mean love for what we have. What we have in our environment, in our planet, in our society, with our people, with our friends, with our neighbours. And I suppose one of the effects it's had with me is that I'm very quick now to help. I'd like to think I was before, but even more so now. I just want to help other people. And I don't mind certainly going out my way to do something for somebody. Is not going out my way. It's actually making that journey to do it because it's something I want to do. And then that helping and giving to others becomes part of my life. And I think that's where it's changed me, and one positive thing I'd like to think has changed within me. I've got the benefit of 10 years, and I can reflect back. At the end of the day, terrible things happen in life, but things carry on. You move on, you carry on, and you continue to live your life. Don't let it take over your life. Otherwise, those terrorists or groups or the people that did this, they win again, don't they? And so perhaps it's just the optimist in me. But I would say going back to is just try and look at the positive side. You can get back to what you consider to be a normal life again. Life doesn't have to end as a result of a traumatic experience within your life. I think it depends on how well you're going to handle it and how well you're prepared to move on. You have to accept lots of things. You have to accept certain things, certain bits of information you'll never know, you'll never find out. And I think once you come to terms with that, that allows you to move on yourself. So I would say, don't give up hope.